Hi, I'm Nilofer. I'm from Team Onsurity. Welcome to Onsurity's live session, Take a Pause, Dash Your Way to Good Health with Chandni Kagalwalla, clinical and pediatric nutritionist. Before we start, here's a little about Chandni. With over 13 years of experience, Chandni has made a mark in the field of clinic and pediatric nutrition, along with adding the flavor of lifestyle coaching in her consultations. She has been associated with India's prominent gastroenterologist Anand Joshi for PD Hinduja Hospital, Mumbai. She has been a corporate nutrition consultant with SEBI for over 2 years, lecturer and course coordinator at SNDT, Mumbai, before starting off as an independent professional. She has also her own consultation in Mumbai at Bandra and Lokhandwala and has been working with many nutrition and pharma brands in developing content and F&B programs. She's also a personal consultant to the Mariwalas of Marico and few more HNIs of Mumbai.
So today we are discussing about hypertension and how we can manage it with the help of healthy eating habits. Before we understand that, let us exactly understand what hypertension is. So hypertension is nothing but blood pressure which is above normal. Okay, very commonly we use the terminology. I have blood pressure, or I have a blood pressure issue. To be honest, that's a very layman's language. All of us have to have blood pressure. Only then, only if the blood flows under pressure, we'll be able to supply oxygen and nutrients to the different body parts. So ideally, when we say blood pressure issue, it is meaning that, a person is suffering from high blood pressure, So we'll understand that. We'll understand how we can manage it with the help of food and lifestyle modifications. Okay. So what is blood pressure? It is the force of blood against the wall of the arteries. Arteries are your blood vessels. They supply blood to the different parts of your body. Okay. Very commonly, when you go to your doctor for a general checkup, he will tell you, okay, your blood pressure reading is say 130/85. So where 130 is nothing but the systolic pressure and 85 is nothing but the diastolic pressure. This is just to explain you what it means, because we know the readings, but we don't know what they mean. So the systolic pressure is nothing but the pressure when the heart is beating, and when the heart is relaxing, that is the diastolic pressure. Okay, so the second reading, the lesser reading that we see is the diastolic pressure. Okay, now what is a high blood pressure then? So any pressure which is above 140/90 is, consistently, say around 2 to 3 readings or more taken over different time slots, okay, is what a doctor will diagnose as high blood pressure. Okay, and why it is important to control, why is it important to diagnose and treat this high blood pressure, is because it can increase your chance for heart diseases, kidney diseases, or for having a stroke. In some people, there may be some basic symptoms like say headache or feeling dizzy, but many a times, people don't have any symptoms. There are no warning signs, and it just goes undiagnosed till there is some major issue that comes up. Why do we need to control this blood pressure? Because, I'll give you a simple analogy to understand this. You imagine two water hoses. One is a small, thin water hose, and one is a thicker water hose. You imagine the same quantity of water flowing through both. The one which is flowing through the narrow water hose is going to be flowing under a lot of pressure because it has to pass through a smaller tunnel, right? Whereas the one which is flowing through the bigger water hose is going to be under lesser pressure because it is having more space to pass through. So these two water hoses are nothing but your blood vessels. The narrow one is the blood vessel which has been thickened because of, eating unhealthy food, unhealthy lifestyle, so it has got kind of completely, deposited with fat. So that is your narrow blood vessel or the narrow water hose. And the bigger water hose is a healthy blood vessel where, blood is able to flow without having to exert pressure on the walls. So what happens is when there is an issue of, thickened blood vessels, blood has to flow through pressure and heart has to work really hard to, for the blood to go to the different parts of the body. Okay, and what can happen because of this is it can cause a heart failure, it can cause kidney disease, and untreated blood pressure, because even the blood vessels also supply to your eyes and the brain and all, right? So it can also lead to blindness, it can also cause a brain stroke. So all these are generally the side effects of untreated and undiagnosed hypertension. Okay, so what are the target organs or the main organs that are damaged? Like I said, the heart, the brain, the kidneys, and the arteries. Arteries are nothing but the blood vessels which supply oxygenated blood or pure blood from your heart to the different body parts. Okay. If you all have any queries, you can just make a note of it, and we can discuss them towards the end of the session. Yeah. What can cause high blood pressure? It is very genetic. It is strongly genetic, in fact. So if one or both of your parents are hypertensive, there is a high chance that you can get hypertension. If you are in the overweight or the obese category, if there is a tendency for high salt intake, people, as you start aging, also your arteries become hardened, and there is a chance of developing hypertension. Any kind of stress, a lot of alcohol consumption, or any other organ system disorders can increase your chance of getting hypertension. So here we have given the different categories, the readings for normal and high normal, and the different stages of blood pressure here. So ideally 120 by 80 is what we consider optimal. The kind of lifestyle and the stress that we all are, most of us have, it's very difficult to exactly keep it at 120/80. So the American Heart Association gives it as 130 by 85. A high normal or a warning is around 130, 139 by 85 by 90. And then we have the different stages of, what we call the high blood pressure categories. Now, risk factors for any kind of disease, especially these lifestyle diseases, are always categorized as non-modifiable and modifiable. So non-modifiable as something which is not in your control, and there's no way you can change it. The modifiable are the ones which we can control, which we can modify and ensure that we don't fall prey to that disease, right? So under non-modifiable, we have age, we have race or ethnicity. Now, as age increases, your tendency of hypertension increases. We as Asians are, more prone to get hypertensive. It is mostly seen more in males than in females. And of course, like I said, it is strongly genetic. So if you have a family history, you are at a high risk of getting hypertensive. None of these can be controlled, but what you can control is your weight. You can ensure you maintain a healthy lipid profile. You do your cholesterol, your triglycerides, your good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. When you do your routine checkups, these blood tests are usually done. So ensure you maintain them in the healthy ranges. No smoking, a good physical activity, following a healthy diet, and avoiding or limiting alcohol intake. These are the factors which you can keep a tab on and ensure that you stay away from hypertension. Today we are primarily discussing on the non-pharmacological ways of managing hypertension. Okay, so very commonly we follow what is known as the DASH diet. Hence the topic is dashing your way to good health, because DASH is what the American Heart Association propagates. It is nothing fancy, nothing special. It's an acronym for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Okay, and the main focus of this particular diet is on eating whole grains. Now when I say whole grains, I'll be discussing it broadly later, but whole grains are if we understand it in the Indian context, for us could be a lot of millets like jawar, bajra, nachni, amaranth, all the millets which till now we haven't been having, but now since people have started getting more aware of its benefits, so all these millets are counted as whole grains. Your normal wheat, rice, all of these are millets. They all are, instead of having something refined like maida, excessive white rice. So, we focus more on the whole grains, which are higher on fiber, fruits, vegetables, and dairy. When I say dairy, it is a milk and milk products, but ensuring that they are on the lower percentage of fat. Okay, adequate amount of minerals. We have 3 important minerals which we focus on when we are focusing on managing hypertension. That is calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Okay. We also ensure that there is a lesser consumption of red meat, sweets, and sugar in the form of beverages or sugar-containing foods. Also a focus on the quantity and type of fat. When I say quantity and type of fat, we ensure that the content of fat in your diet also is lesser. And the type of fat, we ensure there is more unsaturated fat. When I say more unsaturated fat, we take in more amount of vegetable oils, lesser amounts of saturated fat, which includes your butter and ghee, and almost no trans fat. For us, it would mainly mean margarine, vanaspati, or these are not only, harmful for hypertension, but, they also increase your chances of getting cancer. So any kind of bakery products and all generally are higher on these margarine and vanaspati. So we have to ensure that we don't have them. Now we'll understand what exactly means. When I say potassium, it is shown that, if you take an adequate amount of potassium, it helps to lower your blood pressure and bring it to normal. Okay, always important to understand that we are not looking at lowering your blood pressure, because we also don't want anybody to get hypotensive where your blood pressure is lower than normal, right? So we focus on maintaining a normal blood pressure. Potassium in the diet is mainly, obtained from fruits and vegetables naturally. Okay, banana is a very, very good source of potassium, though very commonly, we say that banana has calcium. It's not so. Banana is a very, very good source of potassium. So, a lot of immense benefits of bananas, because they have potassium, which help you to, keep hypertension at bay. It contains a lot of tryptophan. Okay, it's an amino acid which, helps you to get good sleep. So as we discuss further, you'll realize that, I will mention that how, having disturbed sleep also, is one of the contributing factors for hypertension. So, something like a banana as a bedtime snack, if it suits you, it will ensure that you get a good calm sleep, and you will also get your daily quota of potassium. Very often we see patients complaining about getting cramps in the night, which are mainly related to having an electrolyte imbalance. If they've not had enough fluids through the day, they've not got their electrolyte for the day. Electrolytes here mainly again mean sodium and potassium. Very commonly we see. So something like this will surely help them. And generally also all fruits and vegetables naturally contain a lot of potassium. Okay, so that's about potassium. Then we have magnesium. It also, studies have shown that, if you take adequate amounts of magnesium, it helps to keep high blood pressure at bay. You mainly have your nuts, which are very good sources of potassium, besides your pulses, your beans, and a few vegetables, which contain good amounts of magnesium. Then we have calcium. Now, calcium is also a very, very important mineral, which helps in reducing blood pressure. And studies have shown that if calcium intake is increased, especially in people who are salt-sensitive hypertensives. Salt-sensitive hypertensives are people who have been shown to, if they've lowered their sodium intake, they have, drastic reductions in their blood pressure. So it has been seen that if they increase their intake of calcium, their blood pressure starts coming to normal. Now, primary sources of calcium is your dairy products, okay, milk and milk products. So any of your milk, paneer, curd, all these are very, very good sources of calcium. Cheese is again to be tapped, because cheese is containing high amount of salt, so it is high on sodium. So you need to ensure that you ration out how much they can have. Okay, and again, all these are individualized recommendations. You cannot recommend it, on a common basis. So how much to be had is best, basis your reports. But yes, good sources are dairy products. Okay. Till now,
Chandni, the small question here. In case somebody is lactose intolerant, somebody has blood pressure, how do they manage the calcium part of this diet?
Yes, that's a good question. So generally, I'll just quickly tell what lactose intolerance is for people who may not be aware. Lactose is a milk sugar. Okay, so people who are intolerant to lactose generally on having any kind of milk or milk products will either have allergy symptoms like a rash, or they may develop diarrhea. In those people, the best solution is to stop milk and milk products completely. Okay. Now, like you said, how will they manage their calcium intake? So nowadays, you do get, initially in India, it wasn't readily available, but you get lactose-free milk, which is commonly available in the market. Amul itself has its lactose-free milk. Besides that, you get these lactate tablets. Lactose is a milk sugar. So, when it is digested and given to the, a person with lactose intolerance has milk after putting in the lactate tablet, the lactose sugar automatically gets digested before the person consumes the milk. So something like that can be done. And besides that, they can also have something like almond milk, or they can have soya milk, which have no lactose in it. Instead of paneer, they can do tofu, which is soya paneer, which is also equally high in calcium. Also, what can be done in patients with lactose intolerances, they can have nuts. Nuts and oil seeds like your til also contain a good amount of calcium. So, they can make up for their calcium intake in this way.
Thank you, Chandni.
Yeah. So, that's about the 3 minerals. When we consume the DASH diet, it also helps to reduce homocysteine levels. Now, homocysteine is like an inflammatory marker. To just help you understand what it means, very commonly when you go, for a generic checkup, doctors recommend to you to, do your homocysteine levels also. Now, any kind of stress in your body, in terms of being unwell, being sick, having any kind of infection, or even generally, homocysteine levels go up. And homocysteine is an inflammatory marker for your body. Okay, so in the blood, when levels of homocysteine rise, it increases your risk for cardiac issues, for cardiac failure, strokes, etc. The best way to reduce this homocysteine is by naturally having a lot of vitamin B rich foods, B complex rich foods. So your milk and milk products, again, fruits, vegetables, they all contain a lot of B complex vitamins. So they help in reducing homocysteine levels, which further help in reducing your risk to heart disease. Okay. So to just make you understand about what I mean by a DASH diet, like I said, we will focus a lot on whole grains. So supposing somebody is having a bread sandwich, in the morning for breakfast, I would always recommend, avoid the bread as much as you can, because bread is, first of all, even though they say it is multigrain or it is whole wheat bread, it has to have a good amount of refined flour or maida. Okay, very commonly we misread, the refined flour part of it, because sometimes we don't realize refined flour is nothing but maida. So something like that can completely be avoided, and instead you can have a plain roti or a paratha, or your normal idli dosa, or a poha, upma, any millet porridge. These will ensure that you are avoiding the sodium part, which we want to avoid because of the hypertension, and you are also taking in a lot of whole grain cereal, which is not only going to help you in, kind of keeping hypertension at bay, it will help you in maintaining weight. It will help you in so many other ways. So like I said, the DASH diet is like a foundation for ensuring you stay away from being overweight or obese. It will, keep you away from cardiac diseases, from hypertension, from diabetes. It's a basis for all lifestyle diseases. Okay. So we focus on a lot of whole grains. We try to completely avoid refined, cereals. By cereals, I mean any kind of excessive white rice, noodles which are made from refined flour, bakery products. They are all concentrated sources of, refined, flour. and those again increase your chance for lifestyle diseases. We focus on a lot of vegetables, could be in the form of salads, in the form of soups, in the form of sabzis that we usually eat. Okay, we focus a lot on fruits. Now, when I say fruits, we focus a lot on whole fruits, to be more specific. Any kind of fruit juice is avoidable, primarily because whether it's store-bought or you make it at home, it's completely devoid of fiber. Okay, there is absolutely no fiber, and when it has no fiber in it, obviously your blood sugars start spiking up, which we don't want, and it also makes you put on weight, and there is no goodness left. So we avoid juices of any sort, whether they are cold pressed, whether they are having no added sugar. We avoid fruit juices completely, and focus on whole foods. Dairy products, again, we try to be on the low fat version of those dairy products. Meat, fish and poultry, ensure that we go as low on red meat as possible. You can have fish, you can have chicken, again the less fat it has to be ensured that it is prepared using very less amount of fat. It's not deep fried. It can be grilled, it can be steamed or boiled, okay, and using very less amount of oil. We focus a lot on nuts, on the healthy seeds, okay, pulses, so your whole pulses and dals, okay, and fats and oils, again, like I mentioned, is very important. Your main fat that is there has to be your vegetable oils, okay, which is the unsaturated fat. Slightly lesser than that has to be the saturated fat, which is your butter and ghee. Again, butter, we try to go low because it is containing a high amount of salt, right? And then the least or almost zero, marginal, has to be trans fat. Ideally, trans fat is not permitted to be added in any food, but the bakery products which we tend to eat on and off, could be biscuits, could be any of the pav or the breads that we have, they will have some amount of trans fat in them. So those have to be completely avoided. Okay, and we try to restrict sweets. More importantly, we try to restrict sodium. Okay, now sodium is primarily found in the table salt that we have, and it is also naturally found in the other foods, in our fruits, vegetables, cereals. So obviously you cannot completely avoid those things. What we can avoid is the additional salt. Okay, we'll discuss that a little later. So, like I said, we increase the quantity of fruits and vegetables, focus on low fat, okay, lot of healthy nuts and seeds, okay, so could be your flax seeds, nuts like walnuts and almonds, okay, ensuring that and you can keep changing every day. You can add more variety because each type has its own goodness. From some you get omega-3, from some you get omega-6. These are types of good fats which again protect you from any kind of cardiovascular disease. So you can keep changing it on a daily basis. Like I said, we focus on more whole grains, okay, and less or no refined grains at all, no red meat at all. Okay, we completely try to avoid any kind of trans fat products, which I mentioned to you. Now let's focus on sodium. Okay, table salt. What happens is when somebody is diagnosed with hypertension or high blood pressure, because it's very new, people generally tend to say that I will not have table salt at all. Let me not have salt. That's not the right way. It is not possible and it is not sustainable to not have table salt in your food all the time. Okay, it's very, very difficult to sustain, and you don't really need to do that. Okay, what you can do is you can reduce the quantity of salt that you are usually adding to food. That is doable. Okay, also what you can do is any additional salt that you add on top. So your salt shaker from the table can be completely eliminated. You should not add any salt after the food is cooked. So that way you are ensuring you don't take an extra salt. Okay, we completely avoid any kind of frozen and packaged stuff. So any kind of frozen beans, any kind of frozen corn, all those things can be completely avoided. Any packaged foods, so ready to eat foods, your chips and all of them contain additional sodium, because along with salt, preservatives also are added. And any preservative that is there has to have sodium in it. Okay, so your sauces, your pickles, all those are hidden sources of sodium. And these are the ones which we can completely eliminate, because it is doable, right? You can completely eliminate these things from your diet and still ensure that you eat your normal home cooked food with normal salt or slightly lesser salt. Now what you can do is, instead of using the sauces and the ready-made the gravies that you get, what you can do is you can add more ginger, you can add more garlic, you can add more herbs, which will make your food more tastier, and it is even more beneficial to have these than the packaged sauces and gravies that we get in the market. Very commonly in clinical practice, when we take their recall, when we ask them what they usually have, some of them say that we have soups on a regular basis, so which is quite nice. So I ask, what kind of soups do you usually have? And most of the times, especially in the working class of people, it is always easier to do that, and it's good to know that the intent is to have healthy. But unfortunately, the packaged soups that we have, those packaged soups have absolutely no nutritional value, okay? Because they are very, very high on sodium, they're very high on salt, very high on sodium. And the primary reason to have a soup is for the goodness of the vegetables. So, there is, if you look at the label, the nutritional label, like I have shown here, where I've circled the sodium content. But, if you have a look at the nutritional label, you'll realize sodium content is high, and there is zero or absolutely no dietary fiber, because, during the process of dehydrating, most of the goodness is lost. So we avoid those packaged foods completely. It's okay to have steamed or boiled vegetables if there is no time to make soups and all, or you can have salads, which you prepare freshly and have, but we avoid any kind of packaged foods as such. So any convenience food is what we try to avoid, to summarize. And, if it is required to have, again, if you feel that, I have to have this today, you keep it as a ration for that particular day, then you have to have it because there is no other choice. Other important thing is, very often we see people using the low sodium salt that is marketed these days. Now, this is something which is to be avoided, because first and foremost, the low sodium salt that is there is very, very high on potassium. Okay, and we don't want any side effects of the high potassium salts that we have, because our body has to have everything in balance and equilibrium. So that low sodium salt is also to be completely avoided. It is only good to use the normal table salt, which we get, the iodized normal table salt. Again, alcohol intake is something, which can increase your risk to get hypertension. So we completely avoid it as much as possible. Another important thing is physical activity. Okay, so any modest weight loss, if a person has been detected with hypertension or has a family history of hypertension, it is good to ensure that you maintain your blood pressure. And this is doable mainly by being more physically active. Okay, so even 30 minutes of moderate physical activities can help you to do that. You can divide it into 10-minute sessions over the day. Okay, basic things like using the stairs instead of the elevator, or getting off the past 2 stops early, or parking your car away from where you have to go. Okay, these are basic ways in which you can incorporate physical activity. Okay, and always build up, always do. It's important to set very realistic goals. It is not possible to achieve something very quickly and then sustain it. So always aim for something which is achievable and then sustainable also. Okay, that's very important. So always doing something which you can fit into your daily routine easily without it becoming a stressor for you. Okay, aim for at least 150 minutes per week of moderate aerobic exercises. Okay, and important thing is to tap, always tap. So we are looking at your, having at least 10,000 steps every day. So wear a pedometer and you can track your steps. what we usually do is, what I generally suggest is, if I am not able to gauge how much activity a particular person is doing on a regular basis, I will tell them to take, tell me their daily steps for a period of 3 days or 5 days. Understand, if they are not doing even 4,000 steps every day, I cannot expect them to do 10,000 steps a day. So we give them more realistic targets and ensure that over a period of time, they start building up on their number of steps. So that's about physical activity. Another important thing is stress. Okay, stress is something which can also be one of the most important causes of hypertension, right? And all of us undergo stress some way or the other, be it at home, be it at workplace, right? Now, any kind of stress to the body. If you all remember, we discussed about homocysteine and how it increases in the blood because of any kind of stress your body is subjected to. So homocysteine is one such inflammatory marker, is what we call it. Besides that, if your body is under any kind of stress, what can happen is, I'll just take you to that slide, but I'll just explain you what happens. So what happens is, there are two stress hormones that your body releases, that is cortisol and adrenaline. And both these hormones cause your heart to beat faster, your blood pressure to get elevated, okay, and your system start working really fast. You don't get, you may get insomnia, which is basically disturbed sleep or less sleep. Okay, so what happens is, you are trapped in a vicious cycle. You are not getting sleep, you are stressed. You are stressed because you're not getting sleep. Okay, amidst all of that, amidst all the hormonal disturbances that happen, you tend to start eating unhealthy, you start smoking, you start having alcohol. So, one by one, you start getting trapped in that vicious cycle. So, what causes insomnia? Either you're crossing time zones, blue light, any kind of gadget use, stress of any sort, like I mentioned, alcohol consumption, smoking, heavy food. There are certain medicines also which can cause insomnia. Any environmental factors. These are the various reasons why you may not be getting sleep. But like I said, you get trapped in the cycle of not getting sleep, getting stressed, not getting sleep, eating unhealthy, putting on weight, having alcohol as a stress buster, smoking as a stress buster. And that's how, you start getting trapped and you don't know, now what next to be done. So there are different complications of insomnia. There is high blood pressure. Through the day, you feel very fatigued, you're always tired, you don't get up feeling fresh. Like I said, you start eating unhealthy food, you put on weight, you start having alcohol, you have, repercussions of having alcohol, like, some issues in your liver enzymes, your liver starts getting inflamed. So a lot of complications that start building up because of stress, because of less sleep. So, to be honest, before we even start implementing the DASH diet, it is important that we work on these two very important things, that is sleep and stress. Managing stress and managing good sleep, very, very important. So these are the different ways in which, we can ensure that, we can reduce stress. It's not possible to completely eliminate it, but I'm sure we all know, what we like and what are the various things, which can help us to reduce stress. When we try to reduce stress, the cortisol, adrenaline levels in our body go low. We have the happy hormones or the endorphins which are released, which make us feel really good. And that's how we can have a control on our own thoughts and on what we do. Okay. Even for that matter, basic walking, physical activities helps in releasing these happy hormones, which are called endorphins, and they can help to keep your, your blood pressure under control and, overall keeping you happy and content. So just to quickly discuss how you can manage your blood pressure and, ensure you maintain a healthy lifestyle. Follow a healthy eating pattern, be active, not smoke, tab your alcohol intake, control your weight, take your medicine. This is very important, very often we see, a lot of, clients who come, they say, our blood pressure was normal. So, over last 3-4 times I've seen, when I got it checked in my office, that it was normal. I was on medication, but then I had lost some weight also. So I stopped my medication. That's not something that anybody of us can decide, because a doctor has taken into consideration a lot of factors before he has started you on the medication. and your blood pressure is normal because you are taking the medication along with a lot of other factors. So you cannot stop the medication by yourself. Okay. Good sleep and managing stress, like we discussed towards the end. Very often now, what I tell all my clients is that we have a lot of technology, tabbing and keeping a track. These are two things which can make us conscious of our choices and how we are doing, in terms of, helping to maintain a good lifestyle. So, you have devices which can help you to track your food intake. You can maintain your food diary and primarily try to go on, use applications which are more Indian, because, you will have your Indian food choices only there. Otherwise, what happens is if you take the westernized ones, we end up not getting the foods which, we eat usually, and we end up getting more, irritated that, it's not there. I don't have options to select because those applications will not have our Indian choices. So just take the Indianized versions of the food diary trackers. You can also, sync your smartwatches which track your steps, which track your sleep. It can track all the parameters which we discussed today. And when you see how well you have been doing, how you've been improving, it can also be one of your motivational, motivations to, do even better and better, right? So this is just a gist of what we discussed, and now we'll, throw it open for any kind of questions.
Yeah, we do have one question here.
Yeah.
This is an anonymous attendee, has asked, does excessive exposure to mobiles also give stress? I have observed the day I have longer calls, my pressure tends to be higher.
Absolutely, because again, like I discussed, it's a blue light gadget, right? So any kind of blue light is a stressor for your brain. Obviously, as a gadget, it is a stressor, and the talking that you do, the talking that you do also is a stressor, So, now obviously you cannot avoid the call. But like I said, the best way is to ensure that, you do some kind of breathing exercises, some kind of stretches, between the calls to ensure that, your stress levels are, on a lower side. Yeah.
Thank you. There's another question, which is it possible to completely stop blood pressure medication with the effects of DASH diet?
Like I said, it is possible to completely, stop medications, but there are a lot of factors which have to be taken into consideration, like age. Nowadays we have, 20 and 25-year-olds who have been started on medications, But so at this age, if they have been put on medications and, if they have done lifestyle modification, the doctor feels that, this particular person can manage, because like I mentioned, there are a lot of things that are taken into consideration when a medicine has been started. So if the doctor is satisfied and confident that, this particular person can manage after seeing some improvements, maybe yes, it is possible to stop. Otherwise, it is difficult.
Thank you. We have one more question here.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for working professionals who don't have the time to cook food from scratch? What can they do in little time? Basically, quick meals that are healthy and meet the DASH diet.
Absolutely. So what I generally recommend is, plan your week. So generally Saturdays and Sundays are, the days when we are home. So what you can do is, if you've planned your main meals, your breakfast, lunch and dinner for the coming 5 days, Monday to Friday, something as basic as, roasting your upma flour, or, chopping your vegetables and keeping them ready in the vegetable box in the refrigerator. So you can just throw them when you're cooking, you can just keep adding them to whatever you are making. That will ensure that, all the vegetables are getting into your meals, right? Keeping batters ready, batters in the refrigerator stay good for a good 3 to 4 days. So you can keep batters ready, millet dosas, or, normal dosa batter, any of these kind of batters which you can keep ready in the fridge. So you just have to, cook and have them, So pre-preparations and planning, if it is done over the weekend, then the coming week can be easier in terms of, food preparation. So yes, you can. You don't need to completely rely on packaged food.
Okay. So we have another last question. Okay, we can take some more. 4 months ago, I went through the body checkup and was diagnosed with hypertension, but I never seem to have any symptoms. I'm usually pretty chill and keep calm most of all the times. What could be the reason of triggering that?
Again, this is a good question. So what happens is, whenever there are people who feel anxious, when the pressure is getting checked, like, you go to the doctor and he'll say, I'm going to check your pressure. That itself creates anxiety. And that could be the reason why one of the readings was high. Now, like I said, just with one reading, doctors don't start medications. They will always ensure that they take, different readings at different times of the day to tell or label a person as being hypertensive. That's first thing. So when you were diagnosed with, or, when you had one reading which was high, what next had to be done was to, take the readings at 2-3 different times of the day, for the next 2-3 days, see how the readings are. You may not, like I said, everybody doesn't get symptoms, especially if your body gets used to that high blood pressure, you may not get symptoms. So, going by symptoms, you cannot decide if, or, you may feel that you are very chilled and relaxed, but any kind of passive stress also can trigger high blood pressure. So it's important to get it checked at different times and then decide what next has to be done.
Okay, yes, it's not there. Okay, we have another question. What are the ways to keep anxiety and stress away?
There are so many things that you can do, right? I just shared the slide where, we said you can indulge in any kind of hobby. You can do, anything that you like, listening to music or pursuing some, hobby like doing some crafts, some painting. So first you need to see what you like to do, just going by the book or, going by what anybody says will not help, because that may or may not be your interest. So identify your interest and work on what you like, what you enjoy, what relaxes you, along with some basic, pranayams and breathing exercises, which are scientifically helpful to reduce stress. Also check if you are sleeping well, because insomnia or less sleep or disturbed sleep also could be one of the causes why you remain stressed all the time. So, like I said, identify the triggers and work on those triggers to reduce your stress. Anything that has been kind of, you realize, say, for example, nature of work. So if you feel something like that has been kind of the reason, you work on that, how you can ensure that, you reduce that stress. So any trigger, identifying it and working on it can
help. We have another question. Okay. So it says that during pandemic, the hypertension cases increased. What is your take on that?
Absolutely, because the pandemic was a very, very challenging time for everybody, right? None of us knew what was coming next. And I think even people who were never the anxious types, or the people who were generally not worried, were getting anxious. So, anxiety was one of the, uncertainty, anxiety of the disease, the nature of the disease, everybody around suffering, you yourself were okay, but everybody around was suffering. So all that also passively made people anxious. So that kind of anxiety, that kind of stress was one of the major reasons, and then at home all the time, not getting able to get out, uncertain times, were the major reasons why, we saw a lot of hypertension cases at that time. In fact, even generally now we see that, the age at which hypertension medications are being started, as low as 20 years, 25 years, which initially used to be at not before 40, 45 years. So, it is quite, that's what it shows, that we are in times where there is a lot of stress. And like I said, we have to learn to manage it. Obviously, it cannot be eliminated, but, we should learn to manage it, is what I can say.
There's another question. Please suggest a diet for diabetics. In fact, actually, I'm also diabetic. So if let's say I want to do the DASH diet, how would I think most of the stuff mentioned are diabetic friendly, except I think vegetables. We have to restrict ourselves in terms of certain vegetables we can't have. But what is your take for diabetic people to try DASH diet?
Yeah. So like I said, this is the foundation, the basic foundation for a person who is diabetic also remains the same. Like you rightly said, besides a few vegetables, primarily the starchy vegetables, which you don't need to not have completely, but, had in the proper way, in the right quantities. The best, like I said, even in the session, something like this would always be customized, basis your sugar readings, your glycosylate rate, HbA1c reading, So the basis remains the same. Most of the things, along with emphasis on dietary fiber, timing of the meals, quantities of the meal, which is customized to how much you should have as per your height and weight. So that would that's how it can be changed for a diet.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Any more questions related? Okay. How to better manage work stress that trigger high BP?
Sorry, I missed the question.
How to better manage work stress that trigger high blood pressure?
Oh, that's a very, very, the answer would obviously be related to food. I can help with foods which can help you to, kind of help you reduce your stress, certain nuts, and all. But obviously the work stress is something, that stress management has to be more in terms of, like I mentioned, the breathing exercises, stretches which you can do sitting on your chair, going for strolls, in between work whenever it permits. So these are small things which can, kind of, help you to manage work stress better, because it is, again, work stress is a very big terminology. What could be the reason of stress? So identifying that trigger, why you are getting stressed, and like I said, checking if you are getting good sleep, checking if you are, if is there any other issue which needs to be worked on. So work stress is a very, very large, this thing, a lot of points which come under that which need to be worked on. So yeah, doing, yoga, or, doing pranayams, doing any kind of activity which you like when you're not working. These are different generic ways in which you can, reduce your work stress. Yeah. Being more, maybe more systematic, kind of, charting out your day before the day starts, so that what are the to-dos for the day. That's one thing. Getting more organized, pre-planning. These are small pointers which can kind of help you to, manage your day better and reduce your stress.
Thank you, Chandni.